Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call the police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
the struggle with ASU strike.
The Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.
0.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call the police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
the struggle with ASU
The
strike.
Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
the legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call the police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
the struggle with ASU
The
strike.
Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.
Hello and welcome to Global Morning Weekend. It's the weekend, and as usual, we're here to take you through what's in store for the weekend. I am Queen Agaban. Of course, I'm not doing this alone. I have Ramsey Enokagbo with me in the studio. Good morning, Ramsey.
Good morning, Queen. It's good to have you
Yes,
right
it's a
here this
pleasure.
morning. Despite the downpour, you just try every possible best to be here because Global Morning has to go global.
Absolutely, and we have to be here for our viewers to bring them what we have in store for them this morning. The downpour was had a bit of constraint for many people, especially those who are going to be having to do wedding last-minute preparations. I heard my cousin making calls and saying that the rain is going to, affect a delivery for some of the brides or bridal train that they have, and so these things comes up and happens like this. Do people really prepare, especially now that I usually thought that there would be a break? I didn't think September was a rainy season as much as,
I think the season is taking a different turn altogether because the kind of rain we're having these days doesn't used to be like this. As at last year, it wasn't as serious as this. But then it doesn't give notice. You just come out of the house, and before you know it, it starts drizzling. Then gradually, it keeps increasing. I think people that have events today we just need to give it a little time. But I think the way it is, this rain may not take too long.
It may not take too long. We didn't see this coming. I didn't see this coming yesterday and today.
The weather didn't even show it.
It didn't show it at all.
The weather didn't show it.
I think, and this is a call for people to make adequate preparations. I think if you're going to be having a wedding in seasons where you're not so sure of, particularly this period, I would advise that you go for an indoor wedding, have a hall or something. Most people make adequate preparations because the rain can just come on your guests. For those who would prefer gardens and outdoor engagement, to make adequate preparations. Well, we'll take a quick break now, and when we return, we'll bring you the newspaper review. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
welcome back. Welcome back from that break. It is still Global Morning live on your screen. Well, the road was very, very dry this morning, and some persons were saying it's because of the fuel scarcity. And unlike before now, Saturday used to be a very, very busy day for some persons because of events. But for today, it's different. And some persons said it's because of the hike in the price of fuel. And right yesterday, someone was asking me, she was particular, if anything has been said about the price of fuel. And I told the person, well, a lot of controversies in the air when you will have to, there was a statement, okay, a memo that came from Dangote Refineries yesterday stating that they have not fixed the price of fuel because there is a lot of speculations. And they said they've not fixed the price of fuel. And most of the things happening right now, panic buying is part of it. Because some people are speculating that the price of Dangote fuel may not be anything different from what we have now. You know how it happens. From what they are saying now, Dangote is saying, well, the price will not be determined by them. Speaks volume. That's to say, these actors, the game players, will still have a say in Dangote's refinery. You know, a lot of Nigerians thought the arrival of Dangote, the rollout of fuel from Dangote refinery was going to bring succor to the people. But the way it's going now, there is a speculation that this fuel price may not be anything different from what we have now. But the price is way too high, Queen. You can't imagine someone buying fuel in our own country. You see the way it's even growing, the way the price of fuel keeps growing since this administration came into office until we got to where we are right now. And if anyone ever tells me the price of fuel in this country will get to 1,000 plus, I wouldn't believe it. If an NPC is selling for as much as 800 and something naira, then what about the independent marketers, the fuel stations that we have in town? And one very thing about this fuel scarcity is the fact that the price varies from state to state. People in FCT may be buying differently from people in Kaduna State because they will tell you the cost of transportation from Lagos, from the depot down to where they are selling it is different. So the prices varies. So as it is right now, Nigerians are just saying, what will happen? But what people are really saying is, it's not about the price now, but the availability of the product. We're made to understand, I think a few days ago, that some vessels arrived to Lagos, okay? And the problem is the independent marketers have been instructed that the price will have to drop. But one thing is that most of these instructions are audio instructions that are never implemented. You hear this one say this one say this. But what the marketers want to do always happens. Is, you know, so as it is right now, Nigerians are, what's going to be the next price? But they are getting used to the current price already. But I think something needs to be done quick.
Something needs to be done because, you know, when fuel goes up like this, it cuts across to literally everything, even those things that are not imported. For example, local foods, gari, those people who, but they tell you transportation and things that people would commonly say, how does the price of fuel affect this commodity or this product, you know, but people would, they go to the market as well. A few days ago, I was having a conversation with someone when someone says, transport workers, drivers, commuters, the way they increased, you know, the fares now, double times 2, even though we know that fuel is scarce or fuel is expensive now, but they have taken advantage of that situation to hike, you know, transport fares. And so the person was saying that, but this same, we Nigerians are the problem of ourselves. But the Another argument was the fact that no, you go to the market as well. We're hiking this transportation. We're not hiking the transportation per se, but we have to. We're doing business, and so our money has to come out. And so where would naturally or normally go for maybe 500 naira, will take you there for 1,000 naira, because you're not just paying for the fuel alone. You're now paying for the hours, the unproductive hours they spent on the queue where they should have been making money to get fuel. So we're now paying for it because they most likely do not have that luxury of time to cover up those hours that they've spent on the queue. And now the question is, can we have, can there be availability of petrol so that people can go about, their normal duties? People now have to come late. I almost missed coming here in good time for Global Morning because of, this same issue coupled with the rain and all of that. And so Nigerians are crying. We expected that the emergence of Dangote refinery here would, bring some level of relief and succor to Nigerians. But knowing that Dangote cannot even determine the price of petrol is, making Nigerians to raise eyebrow and saying, where do we go or how do we go from here? But we can only hope and pray that, things get better. Well, it's time for us to look at the pages of the newspaper for you as we bring you the review of the big stories on the papers. Big story, first paper, we'll be looking at the Punch newspaper for you. Big story here says, petrol crisis. Trucks stranded at depot as NNPCL, Dangote overpricing. Market forces will create crisis. OPS wants NNPCL. This is the same thing we've just been talking about. We also have certificate verification. Nigerian nurses in UK, US first back home. Tinubu must drop petroleum minister's portfolio, according to Agbakoba. We also have people spreading death rumors about my husband, Carlos. This is veteran actress Joke Silva. We also have Nigerian flag designer Taiwo Akinkumi buried after 1 year wait for federal government. Lastly, we have from allies to adversaries, 400 farmers displaced as Oyo-Osun boundary dispute turns deadly. Ogun begins manhunt for kidnappers of 66-year-old nurse. We just looked at crisis, the petrol crisis, and we also have from the disputes between farmers in Oyo and Osun boundary that has become, deadly. These people, we usually know the Oyo and Osun farmers for their togetherness, for, working in harmony, but the crisis they're having has become deadly. And when farmers begin to have crises like this, the output, the food production output, it would tell on the food production output in that state. And we cannot even begin to talk about crisis at this point in time within farmers because we know how important and how integral it is that we attain food sufficiency. If not, there will be increase in the prices of food items for Oyo and Osun. I want to believe that the government of these states will take decisive actions to, bring back these people. Now let's look at our next point of call, which is Saturday Telegraph. Saturday Telegraph for you. The big story there says, Shetima, APC's first-term governor's jittery over 2027. You take the rider there for us, says Vice President, leads charge to reshuffle cabinet as issue divides presidency. President reluctant to let go of trusted aides and allies.
Yes, as a matter of fact, so many other headlines still coming from the Saturday Telegraph. Above the header, I have this story, and of course, it's a story that will catch the attention of so many people. It's about insecurity. To fight insecurity successfully, corruption must be targeted. Detail read on page 11. Then this one states, stop using a marabout to govern Nigeria. Kuka tells political leaders. Right, this is coming from Kuka. Then I have this headline, which also says, federal government backtracked, says no age limit to writing WAEC NECO. This is one story that actually made rounds. This story, people raised a lot of eyebrow to this story when it first came, that before you can sit for WAEC NECO, you need to be 18 years. And a lot of people frowned at it. NUT frowned at it, parents frowned at it, and a whole lot of other persons actually frowned at it. But there is a backtrack now. The federal government said, well, we didn't say so. Anyone that is intelligent enough, irrespective of the age, you can take your WAEC and move on. Because if you look at it critically, you will know that in Nigeria here, there is a particular age that if you get to, you no longer get jobs. And before you go for your NYC, finish from the university, get to NYC, from NYC before you go jump hunting and all of that. The years are fast running, you know. So I think the federal government backtracking, it's a good one. Then this one says, don't disregard Kalu others' efforts in Arochukwu Olafia Road rehabilitation. All right. Details read on page 4 of the Saturday Telegraph. And that's going to be the size of the headlines from the Saturday Telegraph as we move to the next paper.
Yes, our next point of call will be the Tribune, the Saturday Tribune for you. It says, above the nameplate on the Saturday's Tribune, we have Northern elders ask federal government not to negotiate with bandits. Olubadan elevates 5 more chiefs. Underneath the Tribune nameplate, we have Kuka to Tinubu, reverse petrol price. Nigerians are suffering. Tells politicians to stop using marabouts to rule Nigeria. No decision yet on 18 years limit for varsity admissions, says WAEC. NECO exams won't be affected by policy. Court remands man for stealing beans in Ibadan. Commuters groan as transport fares go up. These stories, no doubt, we see in other papers are biting Nigerians really hard, particularly the hike in transportation fare, where we see commuters groaning, definitely. And then the Northern elders asking federal government not to negotiate with bandits. I think it's high time that we begin to tackle the issue of banditry and insurgency in Nigeria. The last kidnapping of school children, where we saw the release of these children in, I think it's in Plateau or in Jos. We saw that they said the military engaged, you know, they used different methods to be able to ensure that these children were brought out, which we do not know if it was negotiations or, you know, they went at them, you know, shot at them, or went into the forest to be able to bring these children out of the dens of kidnappers. But I think when we hear cases of kidnappers being paid ransom, whether for individuals or the government, or where we hear cases of negotiations, I think the stories of these kidnappings, it gives other kidnappers or people who are intending to go into kidnapping some sort of morale, because they know that, oh, if this person can, you know, get away with it, if these people can be given ransom. Mind you, I know how difficult it is for families of those who have been kidnapped. If you've ever had someone who has been in the hands of kidnappers, you know how the anxiety level, you know how restless they can be, you know the trauma, what trauma can be like. And so for the families, their first point of call will be like, okay, how much do you want? You know, how do we get our persons out? And when you hear the voices of your persons or loved ones who are in the den of kidnappers, you know that something has to be done immediately. But what I'm saying is, and I do not pray for anyone to be in such situation, it's really worrisome. But a situation where we have government officials, the military, or people who are supposed to be of authority, openly negotiating with these kidnappers, it shows that something is wrong. Who are these kidnappers? Why can't we go after them?
Good.
For the family, there might be pressures from the family to authorities to say, you know what, they are threatening us. They are saying that. But, you know, there are ways, strategic ways that we can go about it, but definitely not having to pay ransom from officials, you know, to be able to, but for how long? Because we see this happen over and over and again. Ransom is paid, the person is released to the next person, to the next person.
Some persons are even killed.
Some persons are even, yes, some persons are even killed despite the ransom. And what is even most painful is after rallying around, people sell their properties. I heard of a very sad story. This person's relative was kidnapped. They were calling it very exorbitant amount of money, and the families rallied around, sold properties that were left, that were inherited, you know, went as far as begging, asking for contributions, so that, because they could hear the torture, they could hear the pain in the voice of their loved one, and so they did everything possible to ensure that this money was paid. In fact, they reached an agreement with they wanted to negotiate with these kidnappers, but they were not having it. It's either you bring this exact amount of money or you risk losing your loved one. And so they did everything that they could do, everything possible, sent this money to these kidnappers only to be given the dead body of
that's where the problem
their loved
is.
one.
You know, most times they come to collect this ransom and still go ahead to kill. The victims. And it's so painful enough that we'll keep hearing negotiate with these bandits. Who are these bandits? That's the question. Who is going to do the negotiation? If they know them, all right, then it should be easy to track them. One of the things behind closed doors before we came up on air, we're talking about the fact that some lines were being barred today, or yesterday across today. Okay, this is something, this is an intelligence situation. If you know, if you can track people, because these persons make calls to say, we need this social amount as a ransom, why not track these people? All right? These people use phone. They use SIMs to make these calls. Why not track these SIMs, get these people arrested? People that claim to know these bandits that want negotiations with them, meaning they are among the society, they're among the people in the society. So it should be easy tracking them because it's so painful. Sometimes if you've not fallen victim, you wouldn't know what we're talking about. But then you said something very vital. If your loved ones are in captivity, you won't have the option because sometimes the government will say, don't pay ransom to any kidnapper, you know, and all of that. But then if it is your loved ones that are there, you will be forced sometimes, especially when you hear their voice, please do whatever you can to get this money, get me out of here and all of that. You see people are sobbing, people crying because of the situation. There was a situation because right now what they do is they can comfortably get into an estate and kidnap people and still walk out of the place.
I mean,
what is happening to the security system? At a point in time, FCT became a hot zone, you know, for kidnappers. We're talking about the seat of power. You know, in FCT here, some estates were actually held to ransom. They can walk into estates, pick people, hold them in captivity, and ask for ransom. A pregnant woman, the husband, I heard the story where the husband and the kids were actually kidnapped. And you know what happened? When they came to the house, they killed the husband. The wife was pregnant. They went away with the 2 kids and were asking for ransom. They called the woman. The woman was crying, I am pregnant. The man that was supposed to pay this money is the person you killed. What do I do? And at the end of the day, this woman ran to the church. And at the end of the day, there was an intervention, a divine intervention, and the kids were released. So these are some of the things. I think the security operatives, they are doing a good job, yeah? But then I don't think this job is good enough until banditry, kidnapping, and all sorts is being put to stop completely. Now, there was an instruction that the security chiefs should move to the northern parts of the country because of this banditry, this terrorism, and all of that. But then we need to come to a point where people can do everything, you know, peacefully. Farmers can go to farm without harassment from herdsmen. People can travel on the roads in Nigeria and feel very comfortable and all of that, Queen.
Absolutely. You know, when you made mention of people being kidnapped in estates, I could totally relate, because a few months ago, it was in the news that a general was killed in his apartment here in Abuja, in an estate. So military officials, in my own estate, one of the security personnel was kidnapped and held to ransom, and the estate is meant to pay. You know, they've been, you know, trying to do everything possible to ensure that this personnel who has worked for us in that estate is released. She's still held in captivity right now. And so it's even alarming that it has gone from just kidnapping a random person on the street to kidnapping people who we consider integral, people who, especially in sectors like the military. A general was killed in his apartment.
We're talking, okay, Queen, this is a general who is,
what is the fate?
Supposed to have securities, okay, apart from, he should have security,
his allies,
people,
yes.
People guiding his house and all of that. He was killed. So what's the fate of the common Nigerians?
What's the fate of an average Nigerian?
The average Nigerians, what's their fate right now? Their fate, as it has to do with kidnapping and banditry. That's the problem, because these people are not even sparing anyone. And that's to tell you of how serious the situation is in the country right now.
And we want to hope that the due diligence will be done to the issue of security and the safety of Nigerians, because we might begin to wonder, why do we have the exodus of many Nigerians, many multinationals, many people? We're talking about doctors leaving, and we're talking about the federal government's, you know, planning a policy to ensure that governors are doctors remain in the country so that we don't have brain drain. Well, that's a good one, but we must begin to look at factors that make us continue to see a brain drain, you know, intellectuals leaving the country time and time again. It's because, number one, I think security. No sector can thrive outside of security. If their lives are not secured, if their properties are not secured, if their investments are not secured, there's definitely not going to be anything meaningful, because you cannot continue to work in fear, particularly here in the FCT. I mean, so we will continue to have, you see people who have had, who have made millions of naira. Aside security, we're talking about policies. How favorable are government policies? 1 minute, a policy can take you 5 years behind. A policy can make you go from 0.8 to 0.0. So the conditions as well, you know, and so the state of the nation, we must, particularly security. Am I safe? The other time we learned a doctor was trapped in an elevator. Till today, that elevator has not been fixed. So this is the negligence we are talking about in Lagos State. And you say that people should not leave, while I want Nigerians to, I always pride myself as a patriotic Nigerian, but we must speak the truth. While I want Nigerians to remain in Nigeria, to develop Nigeria, is Nigeria safe for Nigerians? Is Nigeria, people are not even asking for too much now. People are not asking for too much. What they're asking for is the ability to live and breathe. Let me be safe.
Let the people breathe.
Let us breathe.
That's it.
So this may sound funny, but that's what they want. They just want safety of their lives and property. They just want the basics. We're just even asking for the basic right now. Food, clothing, shelter.
Health.
Can we not have to join long queues to get petrol to move with our own money?
These things are possible. It can be
done. With our
done.
own money.
Can be done.
How did we go from traveling conveniently to not being able to even travel, even during the day?
That's it.
Using Nigerian roads.
It's as bad as that.
And I just hope that the government listens. I just hope that there's a turnaround for Nigerians, particularly the average Nigerian. And so we'll look at the next paper now, the next paper, which is the Daily Trust. We're bringing the Daily Trust for you. Big story on the Weekend Trust, I beg your pardon.
Yeah, Weekend Trust. The big story on the Weekend Trust said our deal with federal government on petrol price. Labour, you know, when I saw this story, it caught my attention. You know, the NLC president came out immediately. There was a hike in the price of petrol. He came out to say, well, this is not part of the bargain because our agreement was, if you can't give us the minimum wage that we are asking for, and you want us to peg it at 70,000 naira, then the price of fuel should also not rise. So as soon as there was this hike in price, the first thing that the Labour president did, Ajero had to come up to say, well, we are disappointed at the federal government. Our deal with you is not being kept. This is a breach of contract. But as it is, I think the NLC is losing its stand in Nigeria. I don't know, but that's what I feel. Because back in the days, if NLC say they want to go on strike, if NLC speaks, the federal government listen. The next thing, let's get to the negotiation table. Let's talk about it. What's the problem? But now, you can see the harassment of NLC president when he was beaten sometimes back. Then in recent time, he was arrested in connection to the End Bad Governance protest. And so many things happening. So I don't know what's happening in Nigeria. The federal government is coming to say, we never had any agreement with you. And immediately after the hike in price of petrol, within 24 hours, the federal government came out to say, because everybody believed NNPC, the price hike started from NNPC and others took cue. But then the federal government said, well, we are not part of this hike in price, because a lot of people were saying, oh, NNPC, that is the federal government's filling station. If the price is this high, then the other persons will not have any option. And NLC president came up to say, well, this is not part of the bargain. If you must increase the price of fuel, then we need to know that you are increasing the price of fuel. But we are not comfortable with what you have done. And at the end of the day, we also what happened. And more stories coming from the Weekend Trust this morning. As a matter of fact, I have this other headline from the Weekend Trust. Okay, let me just look at the riders to that story, the riders to the Weekend Trust. The first rider says, raise anyone insisting on hike is cruel. Says anyone insisting on hike is cruel. That's Labour still speaking. Labour is saying anyone insisting on hike is cruel. Looking at what Nigerians are facing right now, people are hungry and people can't even transport their products from one point to the other. So NLC is saying anyone supporting the hike of fuel is cruel. Then another rider says NLC playing to gallery. That's presidency replying to NLC right here. NLC is playing to gallery. Then the last rider says price remains uncertain. No one is even sure, like we talked about the first time. No one is even sure of what's going to happen next. And that's the reason people, the panic buying is so intense. Go to the stations, the queue are so long, endless queues. A commuter was complaining to me a few days ago that he had to sleep over at the filling station to get fuel. It's as serious as that. You know, these things are so serious. Then on page 13 of the Weekend Trust, I have this story. The story says, Dangote, Wike, wine, Osumole, Dada in the news. Details read on page 13. If you want to know what the news is all about, just pick a copy of the Weekend Trust. Then this one on page 26 says the many controversies of Women Affairs Minister. The many controversies of Women Affairs Minister. Details read on page 26 of the Weekend Trust. Then this one says how renewed Boko Haram attack killed 122 in Yobe, Borno. Well, we just finished talking about insecurity in the country. It keeps growing every day. It keeps growing every day. People keep losing their loved ones on a daily basis, which is not so good. I don't know. I'll keep saying this. People who are not affected by this will not know the gravity of what we are talking about. But if you're being affected, you know what it means. 122 killed. These people can just walk into a village and wipe the whole village. You know, it's as bad as that. And one funny thing is that these people always have informations. You know, by the time the military someone said something sometimes back that these people get intelligent information about the military. If the military is coming to anywhere, they know. But if they are coming to strike, the military don't get to know. And this begin to pose some form of questions. What's happening to our intelligence? You know, because, you know, our military, we have very, very intelligent military. We have what it takes. We can do airstrike to fish out these people. And particularly the northern part of Nigeria, Borno especially, it has been a very, very serious attack in most of the communities. All right, let's still look at some other headlines from the Weekend Trust, I beg your pardon. On the Weekend Trust, the last story that I'll be taking from here is talking about, okay, that'll be the size of the headlines from the Weekend Trust this morning. Let's get to the next paper. But the bottom line is that whatever happens, like Labour is saying, I think the federal government should try as much as possible to give a listening ear to what Labour is saying, because Labour is actually fighting for the average Nigerian. It's so bad. If you know what people are facing, you talked about someone going to steal as bad as food. You know, it's as serious as that. You know, sometimes it's laughable, but this is to tell the federal government that the people are facing so much hunger. Just in FCT here, we heard that someone stole a pot of soup that someone was cooking from the fire. The person stole the pot of soup, and when they caught the person that stole it, they saw the person eating with, the person had to buy fufu and was eating with, you know, so is that bad? Is that bad?
It's that bad. You know, it was reported in the papers that a thief was nabbed for stealing soybeans or beans, a bag of beans somewhere in the state, and it just goes to tell you the level of hunger. And you know, one thing that happens when people get to that point where, this is not me advocating for people to become thieves or become a menace in the society. No, nobody should, and if you're caught, you'll be apprehended. But certain situations, you'd imagine people have weighed the option. When people have nothing to do, when they have no other option, there's hunger in the land. We're even talking, let's not even talk about people who at least at the end of the month have salaries, or who have businesses, even if the businesses may not be going how they expected, or how they expect, I beg your pardon. And then people who do menial jobs, feed from hand to mouth, and all of this, with the increase in food items, in fuel price, people, they can't even afford the usual. Bread is now climbing to 2,000, if not more in some places. So the basics, food, water, can they afford, do they even have clean water? Can they even afford sachet water now? Or do they have tap water? So, you know, rent and all of this. And when people are pushed to the wall, there's absolutely nothing they can do again. Talking about people who don't even have shelter, who sleep on the street, who live on the street. What's the fate of those people, you know? And then the meager sums they have from their daily hustles cannot afford them, cannot even take them through one meal. We would have cases and situations of stealing, because there's nothing they don't care. So these people now don't care. You wonder why certain people do what they do. Why would you kill your fellow human being for 50,000 naira?
50,000 naira.
Sometimes you hear the amount of money that people collect to kill people.
It's amazing. It's
people who don't have anything to lose anymore. For that point in time, what they care about is what goes to their stomach, food. And so they will do anything. They will go to any length. Yes.
Crime is increasing.
Crime is increasing. It's because they have weighed the option. What is it? If they are caught, what remains is either they die or, you know, but they must survive. And so you wonder why. Sometimes 20,000 naira. Why are you doing this? Why are you asking for a certain amount of money? It's because for them, it will help them put food on their table.
They will have to live.
And so we must be, it's on a daily. And so when you nab, so how many people can we even convict for stealing in a day when the numbers keep increasing and increasing? Definitely our cells will be overpopulated. Our correctional facilities will be overpopulated. So we must begin to look at way forward if you say you arrest, these people have waited, and there are many of them like that, not just in Abuja, not just here, this part of the country, everywhere in Nigeria. So do we want to begin to convict people who have gone to steal pots of soup? Do we now want to continue to arrest people who have gone to steal beans, who have gone to steal foods, as to people who have committed very, very, heinous crimes? So we must begin to, we want to pack people in cells, in correctional facilities for stealing bread, for stealing a pot of soup.
When you're talking about it like this, people will think, just these small things. These are major things, and these things keep growing.
They keep growing.
This is how it happens.
This is how it begins, exactly.
By the time they start gradually, before you know, they become hardened criminals. This is how it gets started. Because someone who is stealing maybe a pot of soup now, or a bag of soil bean or whatever, by the time they continue like that, they become hardened in it. And at the end of the day, the society begins to suffer. So instead of waiting to do a damage control, it's better to do something now, okay? And what are we talking about? The people are not even asking for too much. Just give us what to eat. Make it possible for us to move about our daily activities. We should be able to move from one point to the other. If we are sick, we should have a health facility to visit. There was a time that doctors were even crying out that the hospitals don't even have drugs. People could not afford drugs in our hospitals. And that's the reason people are even running away. Our doctors are running away, But these are things that people can do easily. It's not difficult for the federal government to handle. The situation is not more than what the federal government can handle. We are not saying fix Nigeria 100% in 1 year, in 2 years. That's not what we're saying. But the policies should be friendly, should be people-friendly. The things people are crying for right now, if you can't do it 100%, let's get 70%, 80% of it. Because these are social amenities. These are things, these are fundamental rights of Nigerians.
That they are protected. Their lives and properties are protected.
That's it. So these are things that we can do. We heard of the fact that palliatives were rolled out. How many people got it? What are the parameters for getting it? To buy a bag of rice. In fact, we were told a bag of rice was going to be sold for 40,000 naira, as against the 80-something thousand naira then. But then, how many people got it? What are the criteria for getting this rice? Are this rice available? These are the questions. These are things the federal government can do. We heard that people at the National Assembly have said, okay, we will give up a percentage of our salaries to make sure the suffering of the people is ameliorated. Then, at the month end, they said bureaucracy played out, this couldn't happen, and all of why? Why all of this? These are things, if not for selfish reasons and greed, people can fix this country, the people in authority. These things that we're complaining about, some people don't even know anything like this is happening. Things like this are happening because they are not feeling it, because they've accumulated so much for themselves. But the truth is this, if the nation is in this hardship, if these things keep happening, who else would you rule? Because the people need to be okay. The people have to be there before you can even govern, before you can even rule. Okay, if the subordinates are not there, who would the leaders lead? That's it. So the people have to be comfortable to an extent, for the leaders to even lead them. That's what we're talking about. So I think the federal government, the president, and the people in authority can go back to the drawing table and just think about what can be done so that these things can at least come and go. It is here right now. Let it go. Let it be, thank God that things are better now, even though it's not 100%. It can be done. And I believe in this administration that they can do it if they want to do it. That's what I feel.
Yes, but over time, we've seen policies and measures that are commendable by the federal government and by this administration too. While we think that more can be done, let's not forget to point out that some of these things have been great ideas, but the implementation, like you rightly said, the follow-through. We don't just say, okay, today let bags of rice be given to alleviate the hardship that we're currently facing. We know that this is just helping at the surface level, but at least it's better than doing nothing. But how well implemented, how well followed was that distribution done? Because we saw that these same bags of rice, trailer trucks, loads of rice that were supposed to be given out to 36 states, given out to people who I need, you know, was rebagged. We saw videos of these same bags of rice given out by the government, rebagged, and it will be taken to the market and sold to same vulnerable people who cannot even afford. So it is appalling. And when we see videos like this, we expect sporadic actions to be taken, follow through. Who the middlemen particularly, we know that's a welcome initiative. Oh, fine. Let's not say, because we've had analysts come here to say that when you give out bags of rice, how about petrol? How about gas? How about beans? How about tomatoes? Are they going to boil rice and begin to eat like that? But we must, that is true as well. But we must also understand that this is a measure, a way, you know, to also put in the minds of people that the federal government is working, and for the meantime, you know, it is welcoming. But the sad part is that to see that this initiative was rendered, you know, something else because of the process of distribution, because of the middlemen, because of how porous it became, was sad. Because these same people who need it, how can we know how these bags of rice were distributed? How evenly distributed across the 36 states was this bags of rice distributed? And what action was taken when videos came out of those bags of rice being rebagged to be taken to the market for same vulnerable people?
Do you know where the problem is? In Nigeria, in this part of the world, there is a lot of things that are being said, but the action is where the problem is. No supervision in this part of the world. In Nigeria, they will just give instruction. You see it on paper, and that's it. But who is supervising this process to make sure it's properly done? That's it. Then who is supposed to be held accountable? Are you going to be held accountable for this process? These are things that the federal government needs to put in place, because most times they give instructions and these instructions are not being supervised. So the people go out there and come back with whatever results or reports they feel will be favorable to them, because nobody's supervising them. And at the end of the day, we heard the president say some times back that any minister that is not working will be shown the way out. None has been shown the way out yet, meaning all the ministers are working, despite what we are facing in the country right now. That's by the way. We're talking about accountability and supervision now. Remember what happened to the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs. Up to now, have you heard anything?
No.
And you know, the problem we are having now, it's in the jurisdiction of the Minister of the Humanitarian Affairs, because the distribution of these things, the supervision and all of that. But as it is right now, with the issue of Beta Edu that we've not heard anything about until now, I don't think that ministry is doing well at this very particular point in time.
Because that ministry is supposed to be focal, very pivotal.
You know how she was talking, she was on television, talking programs, what's going to be happening, her administration, and all of that. But all these things died out because of one reason or the other, which is obvious. Which is obvious. But then, somebody else should step up. We should hear what the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs
are doing now.
We should hear something.
Yes, yes.
If Beta Edu is not there, somebody else should step into the shoes.
Let's know what's happening in that ministry. Because it's very focal. I think that is the most important ministry, particularly now that we have a lot of vulnerable people. We have a lot of people who are in severe need, hardship, you know, Nigerians particularly. So what is that ministry doing? The ministry should not be silent because, you know, one person has been suspended. Let's know the way forward. What's happening? What's, you know, going on? And it's very sad to know that a ministry like that is supposed to see to the affairs of people, these same funds that are meant for vulnerable Nigerians, people who have been displaced, are now siphoned for personal gains or personal needs and transferred to personal accounts. Ramsey, we can only pray that...
It's prayer. Nigerians have resorted to prayers. I think somebody said Nigerians, whatever happens, at the end of the day, they will tell you, well, the will of God be done. God's will be done. I think that's what Nigerians have resorted to. Or else, the way things are going. I think there is need for divine intervention right now because someone made a statement that the people are not even sensitive to the plight of the average Nigerians. They are busy living their lives, traveling, living their normal, luxurious lives, and they don't even care about the average Nigerians. And I was like, wow, this is another angle to the whole scenario. You know, because a lot of people have different opinions right now, and people are thinking different things, different measures to survive, whether positive or negative. And all these things will have toll on the economy of the nation. This is the same economy we are striving to revamp because the dwindling nature of the economy is even part of the problem that we are having right now. Same economy that we're trying to revamp, bring up, is the same economy that this situation is pushing down by the day. Remember, Naira is falling like a stone on a daily basis. So many things happening. I think this administration have a lot to do. They are doing so much, but they still have a lot to do.
They still have a lot to do. So it's more like there's a disconnect between the government and the people, because we hear a couple of months ago, make sacrifices. Nigerians have to make sacrifices, but we don't have a choice. We're at the point where we were already making sacrifices even before the statement, or else you want Nigerians to become the sacrifice, you know, themselves.
but the question is, why must it be the average Nigerians that will always be the sacrificial lamb?
And you know, even in normal conversations or normal work relationships, when you have your subordinates, you know, and things are not going well, it's expected that you use your discretion and use your wisdom, even if you have the money to lavish. You know that your subordinates have not been maybe paid their salaries or are not doing well, you are going through trying times. You don't begin to show off. For example, a father and a child, you know that you don't have maybe you don't have certain things to give to that child at this point in time, and then you portray that, you know, lavish lifestyle. Your child is in hunger, is in dire need, is in need for maybe basics, and then you as a father, you are spending lavishly, you are showing off. You know, what do you expect of that child? What do you expect that child to think of you? You know, so it's most likely is either this man is not my father or this man is not okay upstairs, because, you know, tell me why you are buying an expensive car when my school fees has not been paid. Tell me why you are buying an expensive designer shoes when there's no food in the house. You are not my father, or there's something, or maybe, you know, so it's most likely like there's a disconnect. So any right thinking father, even if the shoe was dashed to him, even if somebody from outside comes and dashes your father a designer shoes, knowing the condition of his house, knowing the condition of his home, he will not come and show off that designer shoes or wear it about and be perambulating. He will use his discretion. He will most likely even trade that shoe. And so that's what we expect from our leaders, that they use their discretion. They don't show off. They don't come and be telling us how they bought cars for ministers, exorbitant prices, when you know this alone can make Nigerians agitated. It can cause a riot. It can cause, like we see, we just came out of a protest, and then there's a hike in petrol. And you know how the hike in petrol affects every other commodity. And so it can trigger another, and then we hear of ministers, you know, and how they spend lavishly. So our appeal is, while you're trying to do the work, while you're appealing to Nigerians to make sacrifices, let us also see it reflect in our leaders. Let it not look like there's a disconnect. You don't even understand the plight of the people. Because we want leaders who are empathetic, who are in tune. Nigeria may not be where it is now. You're doing everything possible. Let us also see it reflect in the characters of those who have been put there to serve us, who have been called there to serve us. This is a call to everybody who is holding a position of leadership. You have been called to serve, and you don't turn a blind eye to the people who you are expected to serve.
I think I like that part, call to serve. That's one big area that a lot of leaders don't know. Call to serve. A leader is a servant, but they don't know. They think the subordinates are the servants, but in the reverse, the leaders are meant to serve. The reason why you actually got there is because you are meant to serve. But unfortunately, many House of Representative members are not representing anyone, but representing themselves and their immediate families, as the case may be. But then, if there is this, you said something, if there is this connect, okay, with the people, and you know, okay, as it is, these people, I am here because of them, you should be able to make sacrifices like our mothers. Well, instead of feeling pompous with their Hollandaise, with their shoes, mothers will go, don't mind selling what they have to make sure they fix the home. That is particular about mothers. I think if the fathers start doing the same thing, relating to our leaders now, it's going to go a long way, like you just said.
Rightly. On this note, we'll take a quick break now. And when we return, the conversation will continue with our guest on topical issues. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. It is still Global Morning live on your screen. And of course, we just brought you the newspaper headlines and the review. Now it's time for the discussion proper. And today we'll be talking about something very, very interesting. And as a matter of fact, it's obvious, and all of us know that everything in life, okay, it's on the basis of relationship. Most of the things in life is on the basis of relationship. So we'll be talking about something very important today. And Queen already, while we were talking about this topic, there was a statement Queen made. I won't tell you the statement. If you want to know what the statement is, you reach out to Queen. You know, Queen, a lot of people have relationships that they are struggling with. A lot of people have relationships that they want to get out of it for certain reasons, because maybe it's toxic. And some other persons are enjoying their relationship, and the other person is wondering, how are they doing it? you know. So today we want to talk about toxic versus healthy relationship. And joining us on the conversation is a marriage counselor, Mrs. Victoria Yusuf. Good morning, ma.
Good morning. Good morning. Welcome, Mrs. Victoria. We're glad to have you this morning.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here too.
Thank you. You know, the subject of toxic relationship, when it comes to toxic relationship, and most people say that they don't know when a relationship is toxic because maybe sometimes it can be subtle. Are there toxicities that you cannot see? Or just take us through the concept of what toxic relationship is.
First of all, a toxic relationship is that relationship where there is no easy communication or where there is an abuse, when people become harmful with their words, with their actions, and the things that they do. So some people might not know because that is what they are used to. That is what they have expected or experienced in life. For example, a child that is growing in a toxic relationship with their parents. Maybe the parents are always abusive, insultive, or keep saying things like, you can never amount to anything, you can't do this, you can't do that. They grow up thinking that is normal. So when they grow up, they expect that their spouses will say the same thing. And so when they see such a thing, they just feel that that is how it is. My father has always insulted me. My mother has always said I can't do it. People have always abused them in one way or the other. So they feel that is the normal. So that's one of the reasons why a lot of people don't realize on time that they are in a toxic relationship.
And then the cycle continues.
Exactly, because they will repeat the same thing. They will verbalize it on their children. They will act it out on their spouses. And before you know, it keeps going round and round and round like that. And because of so many hurtful people are around, they carry baggages from one place to the other, hurting everybody in their circle. So it's very possible that people don't know they are in a relationship that is toxic, or they are being toxic. They are spreading toxicity onto others without knowing it, because they have thought that that's the normal way life should be, or that is how they have experienced life. So it's possible.
And so how do they begin to know that, for example, you first of all have to be in a toxic relationship before you get into marriage? And sometimes they don't know before you get into, or maybe at what point? Because most people who are in toxic marriages now, I wonder if they didn't know that the relationship was toxic before they got into the marriage, or at what point, or how do people, okay, let's begin with how people can identify a toxic person or a toxic relationship.
It's easy, but also difficult, because it depends on your view of life or the person you are in relationship with for you to know if this person is toxic or not. One of the easiest way is their actions. Do they actually keep to their words? Do they say things they mean, or do they do what they say? Then sometimes you can see people that are not appreciative of your efforts. Maybe, for example, husband and wife, or even before they get married, this guy is trying to do something for this lady, and they're like, what did you do? What's so special about that? You know, so some people don't know that being unappreciative or ungratefulness is a sign of being toxic. Or when you insult people, you say, this is your big head, you're stupid, you're mad. Things like that. Some people might just think it's a joke. My husband is just playing with me. But when it continues for a long time, that's when they now realize that, oh, this is not actually normal. Or when they taste something a bit different outside, when somebody else is being nice to them and somebody is now appreciating it, like, oh, okay, it's actually wrong for somebody to be shouting at me when I'm serving their meals, or when I'm a bit late in preparing the meal. And then somebody else is saying, oh, thank you. You went all through this trouble to make this for me. They're like taken aback that, seriously? All this while I have been doing this and much more for somebody else, or for some set of people, and they never appreciated me. So ungratefulness is a way of getting to know on time, because life happens to us, but sometimes it's us also that lets it happen, because we don't know better, so we don't expect better. So there are so many things that can actually trigger us or make us aware that we are in a toxic relationship.
Let's look at, because I was once in a relationship that I would consider toxic.
Okay.
And how do we differentiate a narcissist, someone who is a narcissist? We know that this person is toxic, and somebody who, they say, well, we all have narcissistic traits. Maybe we're just all selfish, because if we want to describe a narcissist now, they will say a narcissist is somebody who is self-centered, who is egocentric, who, you know, is full of himself, who is mean, and all of those kind of things. But in a situation, because the reason why I'm saying this is some people might not be able to tell toxicity at an instance. Sometimes it is subtle. The person might be all nice, so you cannot tell. They will be all nice, they'll give you compliments, these things that you have just said now. They'll tell you, oh, you look beautiful, they compliment you, they're at your beck and call. When you mention this, they are there. But the person has hidden traits of toxicity that will play out maybe later on, or subtle. Then you begin to question yourself and be like, okay, this person has never, why is this person shouting now? Why is this person picking offense? And then they're now making subtle comparison and all of that. And for somebody who has never maybe had that experience, will never know. Will never be able to tell that. If you're explaining that circumstance, they'll be like, no, is it not this person you're talking about? I doubt, you know, if this person. So how do we differentiate between, you know, how can we tell when somebody is, you know, a narcissist and, you know, hiding under the guise of, you know, being nice, those subtle toxicity at the initial stages?
It is consistency of behavior. Like you said, it's subtle. So sometimes you see things like, oh, he's been appreciative, or she's nice today, or she said something good about me, or she gave me a gift, or he did this, he did that. But when you notice that the negative words are consistent, the abuse is consistent, the insults, the way they just forget some things, or they overlook some things, or deliberately insult such a person in public. They may be nice at home, but sometimes in public, they'll just say, see, this is your show. In front of people. Maybe when somebody else is even saying something nice about you, they will always find a negative way to just push in that insult. It might be very subtle, but the consistency in that negative act makes it toxic. So one has to be very careful not to think that, you know, oh, my husband is he's just like that. Maybe that's the way they were brought up, and, you know, let's just forgive him and all that. Maybe when somebody else from a neutral place is telling you that, oh, this man or this woman is negative or insultive, you will actually be making excuses for them because you are the one involved. You'll be seeing the other good parts that most people don't see. Like, it doesn't really matter. My husband is actually nice. My boss is okay. My neighbor is, no. They are okay. They are very good people. They are very jovial people. And you will defend them because this thing is very subtle. But when you now sit back and look, and you now see the consistency in their insults, in their bragging about certain things, in their negative comments, especially either in public or in private, then you know that, okay, this is a relationship that's toxic.
Okay, let's talk about, we're talking about toxic and versus healthy relationship now. When you talk about relationship, a lot of people's mind go to the spouse relationship, man-woman relationship, and all of that. But beyond that, we have relationship that exist even at the workplace, you know, at different places, okay, at different categories of life. And there is this school of thought. Some persons believe that when you talk about toxicity in relationship, it's common with the men. That's what some people believe. But then, can we strike a balance? Is it true? And if it's not, why? Because a lot of people, when they want to, if you say anything now, if you want to talk about toxic relationship, where people's mind go to first is the man.
No, I think it's both. Everyone
is laughing. That's true. But we need to strike a balance because I've actually come across women that are so toxic. This one was even at a workplace, like she was making reference to a relationship she once had. Mine was at a workplace, and it was a female. You know, so how can we strike the balance now so that people can know that this relationship we're talking about is not just about the man and woman relationship alone, even though it's more pronounced in that area?
The thing is, relationship is dynamic. So it's not only about father and mother, it's not only about the children and the parents, it's also possible in school. It's possible within work area, like we've said, and it's something that it doesn't have a gender stuff and say, oh, it's only men that are toxic or women that can be toxic. It's both sides. So I'll try as much as possible to be balanced, and you can see that a lot of, even when you talk about violence, some men beat their wives. That is normal, as in, not normal as in it's good, but as in
it happens.
It happens, right? But there are also women that beat up their husbands. So it's usually the good and the bad and the ugly. So the thing is, it's not only men that are toxic. A lot of women also can be toxic, and their own is like another level, because they will be toxic with their mouths, they will be toxic with their actions, they will be toxic in every way possible. And it is not hideable. If it's a boss, they could bring up their baggage from their house. Maybe they have an issue with their husband or their wife. They'll bring it to the office and insult everybody in the room. They will look down at their subordinate, their drivers, they will insult people, and they feel that, some people feel that because of their position, they can actually get away with it. Even the situation of Nigeria, you see some very top leaders also, they are toxic, but they don't know it in their comments and all things like that. So a lot of people are carrying baggages, and they are exploding from time to time on people, and they don't know it. They just feel like, oh, that's how I am, that's my temperament, I'm okay like that. And it's actually wrong. So we shouldn't just insult people, misbehave, and then hide under this disguise of, that's why I was brought up, or that's how my family does it, and things like that. We should try as much as possible to upgrade ourselves, remind ourselves of positive things, or relate with people that can help us become better, so that we can actually grow from that negative background or mindset or ideology that it's okay to insult, it's okay to abuse people, it's okay to get away with negative things that we say to people, and consciously begin to say good things to people. Consciously begin to act on positive things that will make other people also feel good, just the way we want to be treated. So it's actually not about male or female.
There is this place of pretense in relationship. There's this place of pretense in relationship, because some persons will come and tell you, but my husband wasn't like this, my wife wasn't like this. So what happened? Because these things have triggers, right? It could be from the man or the woman. So do we have things that actually trigger toxicity in relationship? And what are they, and how can they be handled?
First of all, things can be triggered, I agree, but most of the time it's already there. It's inbuilt. Some people might behave, it might not really be because they want to pretend, but either they are trying to work on themselves alone and they are struggling with it, or they have learned how to, subdue some negative thoughts or negative temperaments or words for a while. But when stress comes on, or when there's money, because they will say the true nature of a person comes out whether there's a problem or there's serious wealth. So these things are already inbuilt in that person. And if they don't deal with it, they don't heal properly, when stress comes in, okay, maybe stress from work, stress from bills or things like that, they will just explode. And those things that are beneath, that be buried for years or months, will start coming out to the surface. And that's when you see people exploding. And somebody that has been so nice for many years, because of stress, because of trouble with finances or health challenges and things like that, they will just start exploding and start saying things. 10 years ago, you did this. 2 years ago, 3 months ago. You're like, I thought you forgave me. I thought that has never happened or again, or you said you will not mention it again. And because this thing has been there for years, it will not come out to the surface. So stress can actually bring out negative parts of people or bring out toxicity in them. And it's not just because of stress. Some people are just, I won't say pretend. Well, some people might pretend, but I wouldn't want to agree that people will be in a relationship for that long and keep pretending over and over an issue, and then they will not explode in the future.
Okay. Pretense. Well, as they said some people can bottle up certain things
for years, yeah.
For years, especially during courtship. Very, very important. I know what we're talking about right now. We're addressing situations in families, people in courtship and in relationships and all of that. Now, we've been talking about toxicity. While you were talking about the fact that bills can also contribute and become a trigger, I was like, in my mind, hey, how many toxic homes do we have in Nigeria
with this economy?
With this economy. That's what I was thinking about, because a lot of people are having bills that they don't even, as it is right now, you don't even need to have a budget anymore, because your budget cannot even sustain you. So a lot of, there may be a lot of toxic home right now.
But that's why you should have budget.
If you have a budget, you go to the market, you're returning again, the budget changes.
You can change, but you still have it. Yeah, it's a big guide.
Good. The budget is always there.
But the frustration that comes after knowing that your budget is
not budgeted. After all these things, what do I do again? It's going to be the next 30 days. What do we do and all of that? All right, that's, by the way, a healthy relationship.
I just want to know what a healthy relationship looks like.
Yes, that's exactly what I wanted to ask.
A healthy relationship. We've talked about toxicity and those signs. But what is it like? Perhaps most of us might not even know what it is. But let us know what a toxic relationship looks like, so that we can be able to compare and say, okay, am I in a healthy relationship or am I in a toxic relationship?
For healthy relationship, we've spoken about toxic. Now, healthy relationship is a relationship where two people are open to one another. They speak their minds. There's a room for correction. There's a room for supporting each other. And they always communicate. Open communication is very, very important. The way they speak, they are considerate about how they speak, the tone they use for one another. And these things help them to grow. People that are in healthy relationship want to improve on themselves. They want to become better. But people in toxic relationship are trying to actually pull down others. While healthy relationship, they are always helping each other to grow. They are supporting each other. Somebody lost a spouse or a relation, or somebody that is close to them, a loved one. Your spouse or your person that is in a healthy relationship would want to sympathize with you or empathize with you and put him or herself in your shoes and say, oh, because of this, let's do this or let's reduce this. They will always want to support you in your business. They would always want to say words that could build up your self-esteem. So people in healthy relationship actually are growers and people that always forgive one another. But people that are in toxic relationship are always reminding each other about the faults. But healthy relationship, they will either forgive and forget. Even if they don't have a memory loss, as some people want to say, but at least they will go a long way not to repeat those things or bring it up to the surface and say, oh, you did this and that and that. So healthy relationship are people that are always building one another, helping each other to grow, and they find deliberate ways to make each other happy in their relationship.
That's nice. So, but how can we, let's move back to identifying a person who is toxic. When you see a toxic person, and not just in a relationship, to identify an individual, maybe in a workplace relationship now, work setting. How do you know that a colleague, and how do you not trigger, sometimes there are times where you do not want to have, you just want to have a cordial relationship. You don't want to trigger, because whether you like it or not, you definitely have to have a relationship with certain people. In a relationship, you can say, oh, I don't want to have a relationship with you, and that's fine. You clear off that. So now, how do you manage working or existing, coexisting with, a toxic colleague or a toxic boss?
One of the things you can do, like you said, is avoid them. You can actually have a boss or a spouse that is toxic and still try and avoid them. In the process, like, for example, the person is greeting, the person is insultive and all that. You don't need to replace or reply them, because in the process of trying to reply them or reason with them, they will actually burst out more and the insults will keep going on and on. So you can actually avoid such people by just doing your work, and delivering what is expected of you as at when due, or even a bit earlier in the workplace. When it comes to the house also, if you have a toxic spouse, start with your own positive thoughts, your own actions, your own beliefs of yourself, because our self-talk can actually be good or negative. And a lot of people are almost 80% speaking negative things about themselves, about their situation. They insult themselves. Oh, my face is not good, my nails is this, my nose is so, I'm fat. All those talks can actually be changed. So even in a relationship or you're in an office where you have a boss that is negative or a spouse that is negative, you can actually deal with them and say, oh, maybe this person has had one traumatic experience or the other. I can actually overlook them or forgive them in advance for my own mental state, because I want to be healthy. I want to go ahead to fulfill my dreams and goals. I want to do certain things in this office. I don't want to carry other people's baggages along with myself. I will try as much as possible to do my work as at when due, so that at least the insults will not be because I have done something wrong. But it will not be that it's that person that has issues. In fact, it will be so blaring to other people that you have actually delivered your job, you've done your work well. Is this other person that is actually still busting out? And directly or indirectly, it will reduce when you are doing your work and you're avoiding them. But when people confront people that are toxic, head on, face to face, it might actually go out of proportion. But when you are doing your work as at when due, you reduced your communication with them, it can actually help.
You know, you don't necessarily, I think, I want to ask, are there levels to this toxicity? Because some people, you don't necessarily have to have stepped on their toes or have done anything. In fact, some bosses, you don't necessarily have to have done wrong before, you know, they lash out on you or take actions against you or even pick on you. So in a situation where you are in, because I have also been in a workplace that is very toxic, that was very toxic. And in fact, the more you do good, you have a situation where someone is trying to pitch you against another person, trying to bring on unhealthy competition, unnecessary competition, and it's coming from a superior. So how do you go about it? Do you now begin to, highly toxic, do you leave for the sake of your, do we come to a point where we say, okay, it's better I leave this organization for the sake of my mental health, or I can still continue to find a solution to, you know, how I'm going to go about working in that particular place?
Depends on the individual. If you feel that you've gotten to a stage where you can't take it anymore, you can look for another job while you're still there. When you see that you secure another job that is better or that has a more friendly environment for you, you can actually leave. Then another thing I would like to say most of the time is you can actually pray for the other person, because they might be going through issues that they don't know. They might just feel that, oh, that's the way I was brought up, or they feel that it's a way of showing authority. You know, there are several books, and several people are too lazy to read these books and actually implement them. Some people will read Law of Power, 48 Laws of Power, and misinterpret these things. Some people have misinterpreted some things they watch on movie or in a movie or a television, and they feel that they are actually in the right. That it's their right to speak like this, or because they are the boss, they can actually talk to people anyhow, they can misbehave, and they are not seeing it as misbehaving as we are saying now, because they see it as a normal way of life. So it's actually you that will decide and say, I can't take this anymore. For my peace of mind, for me to achieve my goals in life, for me, because mental health is very, very important. And once is being triggered, there's stress, there's insult, negatively, your self-esteem will be affected. And directly or indirectly, it will reduce your productivity at work or at home. And directly or indirectly, it will also help cause the person not to do certain things they're supposed to do. And it can even reduce your lifespan. So for you to avoid all those, you can actually look for a better job somewhere else.
Okay, talking about this relationship now, as it is, situation may warrant where maybe one person is healthy, then the other person is toxic, and they come together, maybe courtship, everything being done, and they get married. What is going to be the prospect of that marriage? This is just like negative and positive coming together now. What's the prospect of that marriage? Will that marriage stay or will it not stay? And what do you think they need to do to make it stay, like she just said? Or does it mean at a point in time one person should walk out of the marriage which is not the best?
I never would say people should walk out on their relationship or their marriage. However, there are certain things you should do. First of all, in your courtship, you should talk. Like I have a book titled Questions Why Singles Ask. During your courtship, you should speak. Not just go to eatery and snap pictures, introduce yourself to relations, and and feel that all that is love. Marriage takes more than love. You need more than love to sustain a relationship. You need more than even money to sustain a relationship. So your relationship should not just be about the euphoria of, oh, I'm in love, oh, there's butterfly, oh, he buys me gifts, we go to the movies, we do this and that. You should actually speak and talk about things and take note of those responses. That's why I was talking about consistency. When this person's words are negative consistently, you know this person is toxic. You can avoid him or her, or you can even start looking for help while you people are still singles. Then once you are married, whether you are aware or unaware, and somehow you find out that, oh, this person is toxic, or this person has a trend of becoming toxic, you can actually look for help. But a lot of us, would keep managing, pretending, covering up for years until it has come to the extreme. And then when they can't take it anymore, that's when they'll now explode. But when you notice, at any point when you notice that my spouse is toxic, start looking for help, professional help. You can do classes on mental health. You can start doing affirmations. You can talk to your spouse and maybe look for a time the person is calm. Maybe when the children are around, everybody's laughing and joking. You can just excuse the children. Okay, you people keep watching television, and then you just talk to your husband or your wife and say, I think we should attend this program or this event or this seminar. You might not need, there is no need for you to say, it's because you are toxic, we need to go for this, or we need to go for counseling. But there are subtle ways and wise way to bring some things to some men or to some women. You can just tell them, there's one program they're doing, so please, can we go? It would be nice, though. I know we'll meet a lot of new people. If the person is money oriented, you can even meet customers there or clients there that can help you in your business. That person would want to go. If you say, I know this counselor, she's very good or he's very good, let's follow them on social media. You don't have to deliberately bust them and say, we must go for counseling. We must get a solution to this, the way you are always talking, you are always insulting me. No. There are common ways to approach things that the person will foolishly, gullibly just follow you and say, hey, okay, let's go for that program. And when you are there, like, oh, seriously, I shouldn't slap my wife. I shouldn't insult my husband. I shouldn't lie or speak bad about my husband or my wife in public. I shouldn't hide figures or turn around money issues and all that. From neutral people, we can actually get help with ease. But when it becomes maybe a relation that is close, maybe an in-law, when they are the one talking, you say, so it is me that is wrong. It's my husband that is correct, or it's my wife that is correct. It becomes even more troublesome. But when you have a neutral person, maybe somebody on social media, I do that a lot. If I see something we need to discuss about, I don't need to say, wake him up in the night, oh yeah, let's talk. No, just look for something. You can be playing it, and the man will say, oh really? Oh really, they give, it's true, I've not given you wardrobe allowance. Oh, that's true, we should go for shopping. Oh, that's true, seriously, we should be doing this. Oh, it's actually good for our relationship. Or if we talk, if we have date nights, if we hold hands, you don't have to be the one bossing your spouse around. And in the same way, your boss, you don't have to be the one to correct them. Oh God, the way you're insulting all of us this morning is not good. Though. You don't need to. But people can just have a conversation with somebody else in a good light of the boss. I'm saying this is our boss, he's trying, no. You know that he used to say this and that, but you know now, today, as in today, see how he dressed, and it's like he's in a good mood today, or she's in a good mood. She said this and this and this, and that person could have heard. And I said, oh, that's true. I actually insulted them 2 weeks ago, but today, okay. And then, you know, gradually, our spouse can change, and our bosses also can change. But when we go ahead and force them or want to enforce our opinion on them, that's when they'll react even more.
All right, that's good. There was something you said when you were doing your introduction, when you talk about a child coming from a toxic home, transferring it to her own home, or maybe feeling comfortable with the situation. Let's talk about the kids now, the children, in a situation whereby the man or the woman is toxic, okay, and you start bringing up children, you start giving birth, you know, and you want these children not to feel what's happening in the house, probably because, you know, children are very sensitive. There's this age they get to, and whatever they see you do, they follow suit. So is there anything that can be done by either party? Because that's why I said, if this one is of a healthy relationship and this one is toxic and the two of them are together, because I know negative, toxic is a no-no, and healthy, good. But then if it is healthy and of course toxic, is there anything that can be done so that this thing doesn't transfer to the kids as they grow?
As a wise mother or a wise father, once you notice that these are the things that likely triggers the toxicity of your spouse, you try and avoid it, especially in front of your children, because your child's mind is totally plain, and it's whatever you are saying or doing that will imprint on their hearts and in their minds, and that is what they too will do outside. So if you know that, oh, it's my husband that is toxic, you can always find a way to excuse the children. Oh, Daddy is not in a good mood, let's go to so place. Or whenever the husband or the wife has finished busting out on the children or busting out on each other, you can actually call the children aside and say, oh, this thing and this that we did is not actually right. What your father said is not actually right. He might be angry, that's why he said this. It's not right. So you let them know that it's not right. If it's the wife also that was insultive and was maybe calling the children names, the husband can be the calm person and say, okay, what mommy said is actually wrong. She's not supposed to have done this and that. So let's please forgive her and let's do it like this, like this. Maybe what she was saying is this and this, but she didn't have the right words to say it out. Or if somebody has been saying negative things around the children, you can actually say, do you know, I believe in you. Do you know, I see you doing great things. I know that you can become successful in life. That thing you want to do, you can actually do it. Don't think that, oh, you broke a bottle or you broke a cup. Don't worry, we'll try and fix it. We can actually do this and that with this broken cup. Maybe you look for some small videos online and show them that breakable cups you can use glue together, gum it, or you put it on the wall. It becomes a decoration. You now use it as a storyline. And you start telling them about some good values and say, you might have broken this plate, but you know, we can change it to like a basket. We can attach something to it and still bring out something beautiful. Your mommy might have said this, but actually we can actually still achieve it. Your handwriting might be terrible, but you can practice over and over and still come out with very beautiful handwriting. You might have failed in maths or in English or in accounting, or you might have had an extra year in school, but that's not the end of life. So you don't have to always agree as a couple to bring up your children. It's good if you can achieve that husband and wife is always in the same page and you know they are the one helping their children to grow. But if you notice that, oh, your spouse likes to pamper children too much, or your own spouse likes to insult children too much, without insulting your spouse, without calling them names in front of your children, you can step in and fill in the gap. So both of them can actually still work together.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Victoria. Yusuf, you have any other questions you want us to throw light on?
Well, I think that's all for now.
That's all. We'll definitely love to have you back here to discuss, other very pivotal issues as regards relationship. And I hope that you grant us that request.
Thank you. Sure.
Thank you. Well, this is where we draw the curtains this morning on the Global Morning Weekend. And if you've just joined us, we have been speaking with Mrs. Victoria Yusuf, who is a marriage counselor, and she's been taking us through toxic relationship versus healthy relationship. Well, until next week, I remain Queen Agaba and my co-host, Ramsey Enoch. I was almost going to call you the veteran Ramsey Noah. And we're saying bye for now. See you next week.
Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient. Before you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
the struggle with ASU
The
strike.
Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.